It's Most Things Kenobi, an elegant podcast for a more civilized fandom.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Most Things Kenobi, a podcast about Obi-Wan Kenobi and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, Leanne.
And I'm your host, Lauren.
And this episode is all about ships because, no, not shipping Obi-Wan with anyone. We mean like actual physical starfighters, star destroyers, and everything in between. Those kind of ships.
Obi-Wan is in some of these ships.
He is, yes. And what's fun is in the various stories that have been written between Lauren and I of Star Wars-esque themes, we've looked up blueprints and cross-sections and schematics of all these different ships. And oh my God, I love looking at these things. I really do. The detail inside these ships of like what goes on is really impressive. And the fact that people have detailed them to the level that they have. I mean, it's...
This crazy, man. This is a fake world, a fake universe, fake ships, and people know every single detail about them. It's incredible.
I have to say, some of these ships are run smoother than some of the places I've worked for in my lifetime. These are more organized and well thought out and seem to run. I have questions, though, about some of these. Yeah, because like the positioning of like the barracks versus where they have the main warfare versus where the command center is. Like I have a few questions. I want to get your opinion on some of these.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because it's actually talked about in the Rogue One novelization a little bit.
Yeah.
For the Death Star, they talk about like radiation exposure is mentioned in that novelization, and it's kind of interesting. It's like made pretty clear that the Empire doesn't care that they might be making stormtroopers ill because of how close their barracks are to the reactor.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, especially with the Star Destroyer. If we were to go by this schematic that we're going to talk about, why they have positioned certain things in certain places.
Yeah.
So I compiled a list of the different ships that we can talk about. We definitely want to talk about Star Destroyer, the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing, and then like the different ships that Jedi are in. There's also like TIE Fighter. But then I thought about the Ghost too, so we can see where we get to in this long line of stuff. It might have to be a part 2 eventually, maybe.
I was going to say, it could be a series. There's so many ships to pick from. It's crazy. But the Star Destroyer is so iconic.
It is.
And that's from the very beginning. It was like one of the first designs. It was actually designed by Colin Cantwell, he worked on the 2001 Space Odyssey. He did a lot of like concept design for ships for Star Wars, for A New Hope especially. But if you Google it, you're like, I was trying to find out who designed the Star Destroyer. And of course, Grand Moff Odile Vacant. I'm like, no, I mean in real life.
They have it figured out in the Star Wars universe. No, exactly. But for real.
I was like, no, I want the real human being who designed it. I thought that was funny.
Did you find out who that person was?
The real human?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Colin Cantwell.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, if you guys hear lots of fidgeting, I'm holding my dog. She's having a hard time, and she like cannot sit still right now. So
she is our third host this week. It's not Clarence. It's Luna this time.
Our silent, smelly host for this evening.
We don't need to call her out like that.
I'm sorry, darling. You need a little bath. She had a bath, but it's been raining, so she went out and she got muddy. So
It happens.
there, okay.
It happens.
She's a lady, okay.
She
Anywho,
is.
a fine lady. So
Speaking of fine ladies, should we start with the Star Destroyer?
Yes, she is a fine lady.
She's a fine lady.
So it's a perfectly segue into yacht rock.
Oh, she's a fine girl. What a good
fine
wife
girl. You're right.
she would be. Brandy.
Well, I wanted to ask you too. Do you want to include the links in our
I think we should.
our show notes to
Yeah.
these schematics that we talk
Yes.
about, so you guys
Yeah.
can follow along with us if you want to? We'll have those linked up for you.
For sure, because this is impressive. The Star Destroyer, the schematic that I'm looking at is actually from DeviantArt. If you all are familiar, it actually has the chain of command for the different departments within
Yeah.
the Star Destroyer. This is a Kuwati Drive Yard Corellian class, Imperial 2 class Star Destroyer. I mean, part of the 2nd Heavy Squadron of the 3rd Systems Assault Force. I mean, this is very
So
specific.
detailed, yes. It's so detailed. Surface warfare component. Yeah,
Right?
that's awesome.
Okay, so this thing, total crew, 37,085. 9,000 officers. Enlisted crew is 27,850.
That's insane.
That's
It's a city.
and that's just one of them. I mean, I guess it's when you think of the fact that this isn't just like one planet supplying the amount of manpower behind these things, it's an entire galaxy. I can see how they got away with having so many, but
Yeah.
my God,
Yeah.
there's so many. It's daunting to think that the Empire had this many people just at their disposal.
I know. That's why they had no respect for life.
Yeah, they just used and recruited and whatever. It's insane. Anyway, I always wanted to know, where is everybody in this giant ship, and where do they separate themselves? Like, where do the upper class, the first officers, the main
Yeah.
command, those who are giving the commands, however many there are in this 37,000 that are some odd amount of people that are on this ship, like, they are separated from where the army barracks, the ground logistics, the flight mess, the flight gallery, they are separated. So all of that, like the AT-ATs or AT-ATs, depending on what you say, all the TIE fighters, the launchers, the logistics bay, the flight crew, the shuttle bay, the vehicle storage, that's all in like the nose of the ship, which we know because we see them come in and out in the movies, right? And then way in the back, up above the solar ionization chamber, which I would love to see an actual engineer grade this. You know what I mean?
I know, yeah. Seriously, yes.
Back here, there's all the things you'd find in a very nice hotel. There's services and stores, supply, main mess hall, laundry, sick bay, mortuary, lifeboats for the main water tank, in case you get in trouble. I think it's crazy that they even have a mortuary. You think they just throw them out the back because they don't give a shit unless it's like some dignitary on the ship, maybe.
Right. Well, and like back in the 1800s, I'll say, they wouldn't keep a mortuary on ship. They would actually, like do a service and then put the body overboard because it wasn't safe to keep on board.
Right.
Granted, I don't know what the Navy does nowadays because that's more of like our modern Navy. That's more of the equivalent of whatever this is, with Star Wars. But I do love that there's an artificial sun on board.
Right? I think it's great. There's a lot of recycling involved here.
Yeah. Well, they have to.
There's waste recycling, waste processing and ejection. That's where I figured, that would be 1 and 1 with the mortuary, but I guess not. Life support stores, formal audience hall.
Yeah.
Which
isn't that on Vader's room?
That's what I always thought. Yeah.
Yeah. They on Vader's non-Vader ships, it's like an audience hall, but for Vader it's his. It's his.
Yes.
He
The
keeps
diva's
that for
quarters.
himself. Yes.
This is where Krennic wishes he could have been, but will never get.
That's the thing. A person like Krennic will know exactly where he is in a pecking order based on where he's living on the ship.
Right? And they're all in the back, so this makes it. This is what I wanted to ask you. All of these 4 decks, right? The Intelligence Center, Combat Operations Center, Ground Operations, all of the decision-making things are right out front. You think that would be... Like, does that make sense to you? If you're shooting at the ship, like you're an enemy to the Empire, you're trying to aim. They have deflector shields, yes, but they're in such a vulnerable spot.
Yes and no. And I've thought of this too, but I think it's because it's space. You can attack from any side.
Oh my God, you're right. See, I'm not thinking like space. I'm thinking like you're on the water, or you're,
Right, like a ship in the sea. Sure.
Yeah. Or if you're a vehicle, you're driving towards something, so you're shooting at the most vulnerable spot, which that's not the case here.
Well, and there is a moment and so these Star Destroyers are definitely the more recent version of what they were using in Clone Wars, right? We know that.
Yeah.
Clone Wars, there's an episode where Ahsoka tips the bottom half of the ship up to defend, I think their squadrons trying to return or whatever. She said, and that was like the most fortified part of the ship, which I thought was interesting.
That is interesting.
Maybe it's because there's no windows, but I mean, if there's going to be windows in outer space, it's like a tempered glass that can handle the pressure and all that stuff. So I don't know. And especially since the artificial sun is at the bottom of the ship.
You would think that you want to be as far away from that as possible.
Right. So, but I suppose because it's, yes, you're more likely to have the beginning of the conflict be nose to nose after that first pass, with ships. Yeah. Every side of the Star Destroyer, I think, is, I won't say it's vulnerable in the sense that it would be penetrable, but it would be vulnerable to attack from any side then. Yeah. I would guess. Especially from the bottom, if you're Anakin Skywalker, you land a ship on the bottom half of your hull and find a way in upside down.
Or back where the waste recycling and ejection, that's where Han Solo hangs out. He hangs out in the garbage. So, exactly. Which is also brilliant.
It is. It's really smart, actually. Like Leia said, just float away with the rest of the garbage.
That's it. And it worked. And it really drives home the fact that really good pilots need to know every single one of these ships. The ins and outs. To know their vulnerabilities. Where to go in the event you get kind of cornered.
Right. Or if you're attacking, why waste your energy in the section of the ship that's crew quarters?
Right. You're going to want to go for the computer parts or wherever I don't know. I'm talking like I know this thing, but I'm just looking at this schematic and it's like there's only so many vulnerable parts because assuming the protective shield is down, I'm probably not going to try and aim at the bridge galley. The crew quarters, command departments, naval infantry, all that. Nah.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to take out the parts that can fight back at you first or propel the ship forward.
Yes.
But then after that, you might as well go after, like, the TIE fighter bays or, any kind of assault craft launching bay that could then turn into one-on-one combat with smaller ships. So, I don't know. I think that what really strikes me, actually, about looking at this schematic is it really reminds me of a cutaway schematic my mom used to have of the Titanic.
Oh, Oh, yeah.
And that, it was broken down into, like the engine rooms at the bottom and the cargo, and then, like the lower class.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did they call? I can't remember what but first class is, at the top, and they have suites and views, and they have balconies, and the lower in the ship you go, the less your ticket cost, but you had no privacy, no view. At a certain point, they didn't have windows,
Nope.
So this reminds me of that, because all the Vader is at the top, and the top, like Tarkin would also be like at the top. Then there'd be officers who have a slightly better position, and then just crew quarters, and then the stormtroopers have an even worse location, like further down in the ship.
Yeah.
So
I don't even think they come in contact whatsoever with the people who are giving them commands. They're so far removed, and that's probably how they want it. They want the workhorses along with the artillery, meaning the supplies, the ammunition, whatever kind of ground transportation, because they have those ships in here. Just the size of this thing.
I know.
They have ships. You know how huge AT-ATs are.
Right, and there's like 30 on board.
Yeah, and ships that can carry them. It's just insane. But they're all so far removed. I don't know. I think it would be its own community, and they probably talk shit about everyone else and their balconies and their the guest suites, and they probably have super nice kitchen areas with different food than they prepare in the mess hall down in the barracks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure.
Crazy.
It's really cool. It's really cool to see it, and to see the scale, like the vastness is pretty mind-blowing. It literally is a floating city. I Googled how many Star Destroyers did the Empire have. They had 25,000 Star Destroyers.
God. So in this one specifically, if we take this for canon, total crew 37,000 in one. Times that by how many?
They have an estimate here of how much crew. They said roughly 925 million crew members.
I mean, that's supporting the Empire.
Yeah, that's crazy. No wonder the rebellion felt so overwhelmed.
Really? I mean, that drives this home. Fear is a powerful driver. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the money and the backs that they built these off of. Think about Andor. They were just putting together they didn't know it, but they were just putting together the Death Star pieces.
Yeah.
So from the most famous Imperial ship that holds 40-some thousand people, we're going to the most iconic Rebellion ship that holds one person and one droid. The X-Wing.
I think everyone who saw original Star Wars, at least, has a very special place in their heart for X-Wings.
I love X-Wings. I love them. I love their design. I love how the wings can compress and then expand.
Yes.
Do you know who created that? Like you did the Star Destroyer? I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
It was also Colin Cantwell was the real designer, but...
Oh, that's amazing that he came up with all this.
I think he did all the ships from the original movie.
A lot of these designs, take for instance, the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter. More so the TIE Fighter. How the do these even fly? They make no sense. The TIE Fighter,
I don't know. It makes no sense aerodynamically at all.
But I love them.
I know, I do too.
It says here, the X-Wing achieves its remarkable maneuverability through a combination of three factors. Different thrust from its four fusel ion engines, high mass electromagnetic. I can't read that because the font's too small, so I'm gonna cut this. What is it? What does it say?
I don't know. I was trying to read that blurb earlier, and I was like, I don't understand any of the words I just read.
Well, as it turns out, it has a greater survivability rate compared to the TIE fighter. Obviously.
It doesn't surprise me. Yeah, and think about how the Empire doesn't care. It's all about efficiency, and it doesn't care about loss of life.
That's it.
And the rebellion needed to keep every ship running. Like, they had their stuff slapdashed together with spit and gum,
Yeah,
sometimes.
right, truly.
Which is very much how pilots were in World War II. I've seen so many documentaries where they talk about the pilots would land, like they had really short lifespans in World War II. They'd land, they'd clean out the cockpit of whatever was going on there. They'd have broken glass and shit like that. They'd patch up the wings and they'd take off again. It was not like, oh, we'll get you a new wing. It was like, nope, stick something on there, send it back out. And that's how the rebellion had to be as well.
It's so iconic. And I love that they have a red, blue, green, yellow, gold, I guess,
Yeah.
not yellow, but they all have like their own color squadrons.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite part of an X-Wing are the little, the pointy things. What are they called?
It's a laser firing hip.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, the lasers that stick out in the side.
So there's a lot going on in a very small ship. We've got a lot of torpedoes. We got a lot of laser cannons. We got a lot of air valves. And then there's the little astromech. He is up there. He is as important, if not more important, than the pilot. As we've seen many times in the messiness of Anakin and, any Jedi, I guess, who is in a starfighter that requires an astromech droid. They often are in a bind. And I was thinking about, not specifically an X-Wing, but like a starfighter in general. An X-Wing is a type of starfighter, but I'm thinking of like the starfighter of that Obi-Wan and Anakin had in Revenge of the Sith and most of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
They had those little... They were like released, they were like little crabs and they ate away at the wiring. Remember they went all over the exoskeleton of the ship?
Like the buzz droids?
Is it a buzz droid? And they ate away?
In Revenge of the Sith at the beginning, the ones that get all over the ship?
Yeah.
The starfighters, I think it's a buzz droid.
Okay.
I think.
Ahsoka saves Anakin in the Clone Wars because his goes down because of one. And he like gets knocked out. And you were talking about the vulnerabilities of like the Star Destroyer, and those things would be menacing to a smaller ship like this because all of the wiring is so compact, like intestines.
Yeah.
And it's all right in that one spot. It's not spread out like, it's a compact ship.
And the hull itself is probably way thinner than the skin of a Star Destroyer. So one shot could totally destroy a fighter.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we see like a TIE fighter, one shot to that panel on the side and boom, they're spinning out. One or two shots to an X-Wing, they're spinning out. To be a pilot of one of these things, I don't know, man. It takes a lot. And you think about Luke using the Force, just to aim. Man, it's impressive.
Surrounded by all this wiring and electrical radioactive stuff.
Yeah.
The X-Wing is kind of special, too, because it's got a hyperdrive.
It does, yeah.
Because TIE fighters are short-range fighters, as Obi-Wan says. And then the Jedi starfighters had to have the light...
The ring.
Speed ring, the hyperspace rings to take them through hyperspace. And the X-Wing, it has it built into the ship. And the other thing, too, about this is that there's a pitch and roll control that the pilots use their feet for. So they're
No, thank you.
Yeah, what? Like, both hands and feet are busy, plus, you have to have an astromech helping out. It's like, holy shit. it's like playing the drums. How do you do it?
So what is more technical, a Star Destroyer or a smaller starfighter? Or are they equal depending on perspective? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in a Star Destroyer and it's really spread out. But you have this compact powerhouse with all of this mechanical knowledge required. Just, I don't know.
It's crazy. It seems very overwhelming. I would not be able to do it. Especially Luke just like pops into the rebellion out of nowhere and he is able to fly an X-Wing after flying just one of those sky hoppers. Sorry,
Yeah.
what? I didn't know those skills transferred.
Well, I mean, Rey was able to just do it all.
Yeah, I guess with the Force you could fly anything, maybe.
That's it. That's what I'm going to say.
No technical knowledge needed.
Did you know that the X-Wing is equipped with life support sufficient for 1 week in space? Air, water, food, and life process support equipment are packed into the area behind the pilot's seat.
Interesting.
So you have a whole little mini refrigerator behind you.
I bet it's like that gross food from a tube that you see in Andor, though, where you just
yeah, just
drink your nutrients.
the meal bar. You know, it's just like...
If you do a good job, you get flavor.
That's where Kool-Aid packets came from. The X-Wing.
Dude, I want to see Mr. Kool-Aid like bash through the wall and
He's coming through the wall of the Imperial Star Destroyer into Vader's throne room. Oh, yeah!
oh my god.
Somebody draw this, please. Oh my god, I never thought of that.
Oh, I'm like crying. I'm laughing so hard.
So we were talking about the hyperdrive booster rings for the the tinier starfighters that Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka flew. And so we'll talk about that next, and we have the schematic up for that. It actually has a schematic for the hyperdrive booster ring that they needed.
Oh, it does. Yeah, that's cool.
This ship confuses me more so than the X-Wing, even though it's like X-Wing adjacent, right? It needs an astromech, but it has panels on the side that mimic a TIE fighter.
Right.
And it has like the weird U-shaped thing that the Millennium Falcon has. We see that often in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, like the pronged nose kind of.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I don't either, but you have to remember which
It's fake.
well, yes, but also like Star Wars also doesn't remember this ever, so I guess maybe you don't have to remember. Space is a vacuum. There is no friction.
Yeah, me and friction are like this. So
I know, and like they use their ships like the way Star Wars films battles and stuff, and there's explosions and like there's no sound in space. You wouldn't hear explosions, so I guess we can't really rely on reality too much with that. But I don't know. It's weird. Are they torpedoes? What are they? Laser cannons on each side of the inside of the nose. So maybe just because it looks cool. It just looks good.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I love the way that Anakin and Obi-Wan's look. Like Anakin's is yellow because he wanted it to be yellow to mimic his little race that he did on Tatooine back when he was a kid. Like he specifically asked for it to be yellow, which is what a child at heart. It's cute.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see, like in the schematic, there's a hint of their open circle that they have on their Star Destroyers. Are they called Star Destroyers in Clone Wars? I can't remember, and he's got hatch marks on the side for like the ships he's shot down, which I think is really a cool
like the
detail.
personal touches for sure.
Yeah.
These are made for intense firepower, compact, light, and the most agile. Mm-hmm. But it says here that overheating was a problem.
I bet they overheated a lot with Obi-Wan and Anakin inside there.
Girl, you ain't lying.
The minute they sat down, it would just burst into flames.
God. You're getting me today. I'm trying to be all technical over here because this shit's just so fun. No, don't shut up. You're not lying. These two, some of the best shots in Star Wars is the beginning of Revenge of the Sith with Obi-Wan and Anakin flying in tandem in their little starfighters, and they're just so cocky and so into it, and it's just so hot, and it's just again, these Jedi interceptors were made in Kuwait. It's only 5.5 meters long, which is 18 feet.
Yeah.
And 4.3 meters wide, which is 14 feet. You are in there, and you are there. If you have to be real comfortable to fly one of these, like I'm surprised Obi-Wan could do it because
it's like a little bubble with wings.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. And you don't have a protective flight suit. It says here, right. Jedi daring. By shunning protective flight suits, Anakin and Obi-Wan set a brave example to inspire their clone pilots. A small breach in the canopy or ejection into space was certain death.
Brave or stupid?
Well, when it comes to those two, depends on who you ask.
I bet Rex and Cody were like, idiots.
Yeah, that's why they're on the big one with what's his name with the mustache?
Oh,
Admiral Yularen.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I can't remember his name.
They stayed on the big one and said, "To hell with that shit." I wonder if Ahsoka's little Montrals would tap the top. You think?
Probably, yeah. That would hurt, probably.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Although she was, 16 when she was flying them, so it's fine.
Yeah. I mean,
Child in a war machine, no big deal.
I think it's crazy because in this tiny ass bubble is your life support. All of the ins and outs are all in that one spot. So one shot, one well-positioned shot. If there's no protector shield, then you're gone. And you do need the ring to get you into hyperspace. So those have to be positioned properly. Yeah. And maintained.
The thing that's kind of cool about this too, the interceptor, like the pilot can see the R2 unit, whereas on the X-Wing, it's right behind you. You can't see the R2 at all.
I wonder if that makes it better or worse, distracting or not distracting. I would like to see them.
Yeah, it feels like it would be reassuring to see them there helping, but
as someone who's flown a fighter jet for their military, they can often have a pilot right behind them.
Yeah, their navigators are behind them. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to have a trust there where sight is not necessary. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting point because the R2s are kind of like the pilot navigator. So
and you do develop a relationship with them. I mean, maybe not all of them are as tightly knit as Anakin and R2, but you do rely on them and have to have some sort of trust and rapport with them, if that's a thing.
I mean, your lives are kind of intertwined. I mean, it's a droid if you want to say it's not alive, but it's still like you need each other to both survive.
The droid has to function just as well as the ship, if not better.
Yeah.
I struggle with the point of view of people who don't like droids in Star Wars because I can see where they would be annoying if you're around C-3PO, but like astromechs are pretty handy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And like B and K2, like come on. And Chopper.
BB-8 was pretty handy. I mean, he was a little anxious thing, but he was
he was
just as, handy.
He needed a massage.
He did. Oh. But yeah, K2 is backhanding people.
He's too big to fit in anything, but he would still be really fun to hang out with, I think.
he totally did all the maneuvering of the computerized stuff when they were trying to take down, as we all know. Oh, God. Yeah. Rest in peace. My God. Oh, it's too soon.
It's 10 years ago, and it's still too soon.
Yeah. Well, those are just 3 of the ships, and we've spent all this time talking about them, and we haven't even covered ground on half the galaxy's worth of ships.
Oh my gosh, right. I mean, there's so many. Even just like the Redemption is a specific ship for the Rebellion, and there's the Ghost, which you had in here, Boba Fett's ship. There's so many iconic ships, and we didn't even get to the Millennium Falcon, which is it would take as long as a Star Destroyer because that ship is so freaking intricate. It's insane.
And not only that, it was so mistreated that we could make up our own headcanons for what those rooms actually were. Like, not on paper, but in actuality and reality, what they actually were.
Yeah. I feel like the inside of the Millennium Falcon is Frankenstein's monster. It's just like, it's been stitched together to make this weird ship, but it's kind of awesome.
It is. It's pretty awesome. So we're definitely going to do more episodes like this because there's just too much to talk about, and this is just too fun.
Yeah. And it's such a big part of Star Wars. Like, the ships are the first thing you ever see in Star Wars is a Star Destroyer.
That's it. Yeah. I meant to say that earlier. Thank you. The first thing you see. Yes, it's the icon. The ships are everything, and I love them. And I could picture myself in all of these.
That's why I bet people get emotional in the Millennium Falcon at the Disney parks. I feel like I would. I would probably cry.
It feels real. It feels real.
Yeah.
Because the seats aren't clean. They're dirty. And you know that it's real.
It's like that's public transportation.
Yes. Chewie didn't always have a fresh blowout. He was dirty sometimes, and it got on the seats.
Ew. Oh, my God.
See what I mean? Headcanons for the Millennium Falcon. It's going to be its own episode, I swear.
Seriously. Holy
Okay, we have a really important question for our listeners this go around, so listen up. Okay, you ready? We need to know, for our next installment of this type of episode, which ship you would like us to dissect next. There are so many. Which one do you want to hear us kind of break down, talk about headcanon, do all the usual Lauren and Leanne nonsense? Let us know on our social media, on our website, email, and on Spotify in the comment section.
And on our next episode, a little belated klaxon alert.
Yes, but still.
We just really wanted to talk about ships, okay?
We did. We really did.
But on our next episode, we are going to talk about the Andor Season 2 trailer. It dropped. It's f***ing awesome looking.
There's so much
weird as music, but that's okay.
The music was weird.
A little jarring and strange, but I don't care. I'll take it because there's so much in this.
I'm so excited. Can anyone guess why? I'm so excited.
So, join us back next time. We're going to talk about Andor Season 2 and the trailer that just dropped.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Most Things Kenobi podcast. We appreciate every single one of our patrons and are grateful for your support. If you would like to support the podcast and become a patron as well, head over to the Most Things Kenobi Patreon. As always, you can follow us on Tumblr, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads, and don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. If you enjoy our podcast, feel free to rate us on Spotify and Apple. And if you need just one place to find all of these, head over to mostthingsKenobi.com.
So until next time, my space twin, may the Force be with you.
Always.